It was a quiet summer evening when 5 friends set out for what was supposed to be a weekend camping trip deep in the heart of the Pine Ridge Forest. The kind of trip filled with laughter, late-night stories around the campfire, and the promise of adventure. But what happened next would turn their lives and the lives of everyone who knew them into a nightmare that would haunt the town for years to come. The group was made up of close-knit friends, all in their early 20s, eager to escape the noise of the city and reconnect with nature. They arrived at the forest's edge just as the sun was dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows between the towering pines. They set up camp near a small clearing, a spot they'd found on an old map, far from the usual trails. It was remote, peaceful, and perfect for a weekend away, but by the time the sun rose 2 days later, the friends were gone. No signs of struggle, no footprints leading away, no abandoned belongings, just an eerie silence where their laughter had once echoed. The only clue left behind was a handheld camera, found by a hiker weeks later, buried beneath a pile of leaves near the campsite. When the footage was recovered, it sent chills down the spines of everyone who saw it. Grainy, shaky, and filled with moments of unease, the video captured the last known moments of the group before they vanished without a trace. The camera's lens showed the friends joking and exploring, but as the sun began to set on the second day, the tone shifted. Shadows lengthened, and the forest seemed to close in around them. One clip shows the group gathered around the campfire, telling ghost stories. The laughter is genuine, but the camera lingers on the dark woods beyond the firelight, where something or someone appears to be watching. Another clip captures a sudden panicked scramble as one of the friends yells out, "Did you hear that?" The camera swings wildly, catching glimpses of movement between the trees, but nothing solid enough to identify The footage ends abruptly, the last frame frozen on a flash of white light that no one has been able to explain. Since then, the forest has been the subject of countless rumors and theories. Some say the friends were victims of a sinister force lurking in the woods. Others believe they stumbled upon something they weren't meant to see, something that made them disappear. Local authorities launched an extensive search, combing the forest for weeks, but no trace of the missing friends was ever found. The case went cold, becoming one of the most baffling disappearances in the region's history. The camera footage, however, remained a haunting reminder of the mystery, shared and debated by true crime enthusiasts and paranormal investigators alike. Years passed, and the forest grew quiet again, but the story never faded. Then, just last month, new footage surfaced, this time captured by a group of amateur explorers who ventured into the same forest, hoping to uncover answers. What they found was far more disturbing than anyone expected. The new video begins with the explorers setting up their gear, joking nervously about the old disappearance case. As they move deeper into the forest, the atmosphere changes. The trees grow denser, the light dimmer, and an unsettling silence falls over the group. Suddenly, the camera picks up a faint whisper, barely audible, as if carried on the wind. The explorers stop, exchanging uneasy glances, then comma. The footage shows a strange figure standing motionless between the trees, a pale silhouette that seems almost translucent. The explorers call out, but the figure vanishes before their eyes. The camera shakes as they rush forward, but the figure is gone. What follows is a series of strange sounds, low growls, distant footsteps, and a chilling scream that echoes through the forest. The video ends with the explorers fleeing the scene, breathless and terrified, leaving behind a trail of questions that only deepened the mystery. Who or what was that figure? Could it be connected to the missing friends from years ago? And why does the forest seem to hold its secrets so tightly? This new footage has reignited interest in the case, drawing attention from investigators, journalists, and curious onlookers worldwide. The forest, once a place of peaceful retreat, has become a symbol of fear and the unknown. And as the videos continue to circulate, one thing is clear: some mysteries refuse to stay buried. The forest had always been a place of beauty and solitude, but now it was a place of dread. Locals whispered about strange happenings, disappearances, eerie sounds, and unexplained lights flickering through the trees at night. Some said the forest was cursed. Others believed it was a gateway to something darker. But no one could deny the chilling reality. 5 young lives had vanished without a trace, and the new footage suggested the mystery was far from over. The amateur explorers who captured the recent video were not professional investigators. They were ordinary people drawn by curiosity and a desire to uncover the truth. Their footage was raw and unpolished, but that only made it more compelling. Unlike the original camera, which showed the friends' last moments, this new video hinted at something lurking just beyond the edge of human understanding. As the explorers ventured deeper, their unease grew. The forest seemed to close in around them, the canopy thickening until only slivers of sunlight pierced through. The air grew colder, heavier, as if the trees themselves were watching. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, but no words could be made out. It was as if the forest was trying to communicate, but in a language no one alive could understand. One of the explorers, a young woman named Mia, was the first to notice the strange markings carved into the bark of several trees. The symbols were crude but deliberate circles, lines, and shapes that resembled ancient runes. Mia's voice trembled as she pointed them out to the others. "This isn't natural," she said. "Someone or something has been here before us." The group debated what the markings could mean. Were they warnings, signs of a ritual, or perhaps a map? The forest had kept its secrets for decades, but these symbols suggested a history far older and more sinister than anyone had imagined. As they pressed on, the explorers found remnants of a campsite, old, decayed, and long abandoned. Among the scattered debris were fragments of clothing, rusted cans, and a tattered notebook. The pages were yellowed and brittle, but the handwriting was still legible. It told a story of fear and desperation, of a group who had come to the forest years ago and never left. The notebook's entries grew darker with each page. The writer described strange noises at night, shadows moving just beyond the firelight, and a growing sense of being watched. They spoke of a presence in the forest, something ancient and malevolent that fed on fear and despair. The last entry was a frantic scrawl. "They're coming. We can't hide anymore." The explorers shared uneasy glances. The parallels to the missing friends were impossible to ignore. Had this been another group caught in the same nightmare? Was the forest a trap? A place where people disappeared and were never seen again? Suddenly, the camera caught movement. A flash of white between the trees. The explorers froze, hearts pounding. The figure appeared again, this time closer, its form flickering like a ghost. It didn't speak, but its presence was overwhelming, filling the air with a cold that seeped into their bones. One of the men, Jake, raised his voice, trying to break the silence. "Who's there? Show yourself!" The figure didn't respond, but vanished as quickly as it had appeared. The forest fell silent once more, but the feeling of being watched lingered. They pressed deeper into the forest, unaware that with every step, they were walking further into the unknown. Back in town. The resurfacing of the footage sparked a wave of renewed interest. Local law enforcement reopened the cold case, and private investigators arrived, hoping to find answers that had eluded them for years. The media descended, turning the quiet town into a hub of speculation and fear. Families of the missing friends held vigils, clinging to hope that their loved ones might still be alive. Psychics and paranormal experts offered theories, some claiming the forest was a portal to another dimension, others suggesting a malevolent spirit was responsible. But amidst the noise, one thing remained clear. The forest held its secrets tightly, and those who entered risked becoming part of its dark history. The new footage, combined with the notebook and the strange symbols, painted a picture of a place where reality blurred with nightmare. It was a place where time seemed to fold in on itself, where the past and present collided in a haunting dance. As the explorers continued their journey, they encountered more signs. Twisted trees that seemed to reach out like hands, strange animal tracks that led nowhere, and an oppressive silence that swallowed their voices. One night, as they camped near a small stream, the whispers returned, louder and more urgent. The camera captured their fear as they huddled together, listening to the unseen voices that seemed to call their names. Suddenly, a scream shattered the night. It was Mia. She had disappeared. The remaining explorers searched frantically, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. But Mia was gone. The forest had claimed another victim. The footage ended abruptly. The camera left behind in the chaos. It was found days later by a search party, adding another chilling chapter to the forest's dark legacy. The disappearance of Mia sent shockwaves through the small town. The forest, once a place of quiet escape, had become a symbol of terror. The local authorities intensified their search efforts, but the dense woods seemed to swallow every trace of the missing woman. The remaining explorers were questioned, their accounts filled with fear and confusion, but no concrete answers emerged. The community was gripped by a growing sense of helplessness. Parents warned their children to stay away from the forest, and even the most seasoned hikers hesitated to venture near. The stories of strange figures, eerie whispers, and unexplained disappearances spread like wildfire, fueling a collective fear that something unnatural was at work. Amidst the chaos, a group of independent investigators arrived, determined to uncover the truth. They were a mix of paranormal researchers, former law enforcement officers, and journalists, each bringing their own expertise and skepticism. Their approach was methodical, combining technology with old-fashioned detective work. They set up surveillance cameras throughout the forest, hoping to capture any unusual activity. Motion sensors were placed along the trails, and audio recorders were hidden near the sites where the strange symbols had been found. The team spent sleepless nights monitoring the equipment, waiting for a sign. Weeks passed with little to show for their efforts, until one night the cameras caught something impossible to explain. A figure appeared on the footage. Tall, pale, and flickering like a shadow. It moved silently through the trees, stopping occasionally to look directly at the camera before disappearing into the darkness. The audio recorders picked up faint whispers, unintelligible but unmistakably human. The sounds sent chills through the investigators, as if the forest itself was alive and communicating in a language lost to time. The team's findings were shared with the local police, who remained cautious but intrigued. The case, once dismissed as a series of unfortunate accidents, was now being taken seriously. A task force was formed, combining resources from multiple agencies to investigate the forest and the disappearances. Meanwhile, the families of the missing friends and Mia clung to hope. Support groups formed, sharing stories and memories, united by grief and determination. They demanded answers, refusing to let their loved ones be forgotten. One of the investigators, a woman named Sarah, became particularly invested in the case. She had lost a sister to a similar disappearance years before and saw echoes of her own tragedy in the forest's dark history. Sarah's approach was both scientific and empathetic. Blending technology with a deep understanding of trauma, Sarah led a team deep into the forest, following the trail of symbols and the locations where the strange figures had been seen. They discovered more remnants of past visitors' discarded belongings, faded notes, and signs of struggle. Each find added pieces to the puzzle, but also deepened the mystery. One night, while camped near an ancient oak tree marked with the same runes, Sarah's team experienced something that defied explanation. The air grew cold, and the forest fell unnaturally silent. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air, vibrating through the ground and trees. The team's equipment malfunctioned, cameras flickering and radios cutting out. Then, from the shadows, a figure emerged, tall, pale, and ethereal, just like in the footage. It didn't speak, but radiated a presence that was both terrifying and sorrowful. Sarah felt a wave of emotions. Fear, sadness, and a strange sense of familiarity. The figure seemed to communicate without words, conveying a message of warning and despair. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished into the night. The encounter left the team shaken, but more determined. They believed the figure was connected to the disappearances. Perhaps a trapped spirit, or a guardian of the forest's secrets. Whatever it was a key to understanding the dark forces at play. Back in town, the media frenzy grew. Documentaries were produced, podcasts explored the case, and online forums buzzed with theories. Some believed the forest was haunted by restless souls. Others suspected a cult or criminal activity. The truth remained elusive. The forest itself seemed to resist discovery. Trails shifted, landmarks disappeared, and compasses spun wildly. Visitors reported feeling disoriented, as if the woods were alive and bending reality. The deeper one ventured, the more the forest revealed its secrets, and its dangers. Sarah's team continued their investigation, uncovering evidence of a long history of disappearances dating back decades. Old newspaper clippings, police reports, and personal diaries painted a picture of a place where people vanished without explanation. The forest had claimed many victims, each story adding to the growing legend. Some believed the disappearances were linked to an ancient curse, others to a secret society operating in the shadows. The truth was buried beneath layers of fear, time, and silence. As the investigation unfolded, Sarah received an anonymous tip. A location deep within the forest where the missing friends and Mia might be found. The tip included coordinates and a warning. Be careful. They're not alone. With a mix of hope and dread, Sarah and her team prepared for a final expedition. They knew the risks, but were driven by the possibility of bringing closure to the families and uncovering the truth behind the forest's dark legacy. The morning of the final expedition dawned cold and gray, the kind of day that seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to happen. Sarah and her team gathered their gear, double-checking supplies and equipment. The weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on them. This wasn't just another eye. Investigation.it was a mission to confront the unknown, to face whatever darkness had claimed so many lives. They set out early, following the coordinates from the anonymous tip. The forest welcomed them with an eerie stillness, the usual sounds of birds and rustling leaves conspicuously absent. The trees towered overhead, their branches intertwining like skeletal fingers, blocking out the weak sunlight. As they moved deeper, the atmosphere grew heavier. The air was thick with moisture, and something else, an intangible presence that made the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. Every step seemed to echo unnaturally, and shadows danced just beyond the edge of their vision. Hours passed as they navigated the dense underbrush, guided by GPS and the faint markings carved into the trees. The symbols grew more frequent, more complex, until they reached a clearing unlike any they had seen before. It was a small circular space surrounded by ancient oaks, their trunks scarred with deep grooves and strange runes glowing faintly in the dim light. In the center of the clearing lay remnants of a fire pit, long cold, but still surrounded by scattered belongings. Tattered clothing, a cracked camera lens, and a small, weathered notebook. Sarah's heart pounded as she recognized the items. They belonged to the missing friends and Mia. The team carefully collected the evidence, documenting everything with photos and notes. But as they worked, a sudden chill swept through the clearing, and the forest seemed to close in around them. The whispers returned, louder now, swirling like a cold wind through the trees. Then, from the shadows, a figure emerged. It was the same pale silhouette from the footage, tall, ethereal, and impossibly still. The team froze, breath caught in their throats. The figure's eyes glowed faintly, filled with a sorrow that transcended words. Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her. "Who are you? What happened here?" The figure didn't rest, pawned with words but projected images into Sarah's mind. Visions of the friends' last days, of captivity and fear, of a malevolent force that had trapped them in the forest's depths. The figure was a guardian, a spirit bound to the forest, trying to warn the living of the darkness lurking beneath the trees. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and the clearing seemed to shift. The trees warped and twisted, revealing a hidden entrance beneath the roots of the largest oak. It was a narrow tunnel, descending into darkness. Without hesitation, Sarah led the team into the tunnel, their flashlights piercing the blackness. The air grew colder, damp, and heavy with the scent of earth and decay. The walls were lined with ancient symbols, glowing faintly. Guiding their way, deeper and deeper they went, until they reached a cavernous chamber. There, in the flickering light, they found remnants of a hidden camp. Makeshift beds, scattered toys, and signs of life that had been sustained in the darkness. And then, the unimaginable. 2 figures, gaunt and pale, but alive. The missing friends and Mia. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she approached them, whispering words of comfort. The friends were weak, traumatized, but their eyes held a spark of hope. They had survived the forest's nightmare, trapped but not broken. The team quickly radioed for medical assistance, and the rescue operation began. As the friends were brought to safety, the forest seemed to exhale, the oppressive weight lifting slightly. Back in town, the news spread like wildfire. The missing were found, Alive against all odds. Families reunited, tears and laughter mingling in a bittersweet celebration. But the story was far from over. The investigation revealed that the forest was a nexus of dark energy, a place where time and reality bent and twisted. The malevolent force was ancient, feeding on fear and despair, trapping souls in a never-ending nightmare. The guardian spirit, bound to the forest, had tried to protect the living, but its power was limited. The forest's secrets were vast, and the darkness still lingered. Sarah vowed to continue her work, to uncover the full truth and ensure that no one else would fall victim to the forest's curse. The rescued friends began the long journey of healing, their lives forever changed, but their spirits unbroken. The forest remained a place of beauty and terror, mystery and hope. And as the sun set behind the towering pines, the whispers continued. Warnings, memories, and the promise that some secrets are never truly buried. Even as the rescued friends began their slow path toward recovery, the forest's shadow loomed large over the town. The media frenzy had quieted, but the questions remained. What exactly was this dark force? How had it trapped the friends and Mia for so long? And most unsettling of all, were there others still lost in the forest's grasp? Sarah poured herself into the investigation, determined to uncover every secret the forest held. She collaborated with experts in folklore, history, and the paranormal, piecing together a tapestry of stories that stretched back centuries. The forest had long been a place of mystery, a site of ancient rituals and whispered legends. One historian explained that the forest was once sacred ground for indigenous tribes, a place where the veil between worlds was thin. Rituals were performed to honor spirits and protect the living from malevolent entities. Over time, as settlers moved in and the land was disturbed, the balance was broken. The dark force, once kept at bay, had grown stronger, feeding on fear and sorrow. Sarah's team discovered old journals and artifacts hidden in nearby caves, evidence of people who had tried and failed to confront the darkness. Some had vanished without a trace. Others had returned, changed, haunted by nightmares and madness. The guardian spirit, they learned, was a remnant of the forest's original protectors, bound by ancient magic to watch over the land. It was neither fully human nor spirit, caught between worlds, powerless to stop the growing evil, but desperate to warn those who dared enter. With this knowledge, Sarah developed a plan not just to rescue those trapped, but to cleanse the forest and restore balance. It was a dangerous mission, one that required courage, faith, and sacrifice. The community rallied behind her, offering support and resources. Volunteers joined the effort, and together they organized ceremonies to honor the forest's spirits and seek forgiveness for the past. The rituals were designed to strengthen the guardian and weaken the dark force. As the ceremonies began, strange things happened. The forest seemed to respond. The air grew lighter, the oppressive silence lifted, and the whispers softened. For the first time in decades, the forest felt alive in a way that was not threatening but healing. But the darkness was not defeated. It fought back, manifesting in sudden storms, unexplained accidents, and terrifying visions. Sarah and her team faced setbacks and losses, but their resolve never wavered. One night, during a particularly intense storm, Sarah had a vision. The guardian spirit appeared to her clearer than ever before. It showed her the heart of the darkness, a hidden cavern deep beneath the forest floor, Where the malevolent force was strongest, Sarah knew what she had to do. With a small team, she descended into the cavern, armed with ancient symbols, protective charms, and modern technology. The air was thick with malevolence, and every step felt like walking through a nightmare. In the cavern's depths, they found remnants of the dark force's power. Twisted roots, bones, and artifacts soaked in sorrow. The team performed a ritual to sever the force's hold, chanting words from the old languages and burning sacred herbs. The cavern trembled, and a deafening roar filled the air. Shadows writhed and screamed, then slowly dissipated, leaving behind a profound silence. The darkness had been weakened, but not destroyed. Emerging from the cavern, Sarah felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The forest was healing, but the battle was far from over. The guardian spirit was free to protect the land once more, but vigilance was required. The rescued friends, now safe and beginning to rebuild their lives, became advocates for awareness and protection of the forest. Their story inspired others to respect the land and its mysteries. The town, forever changed, embraced a new relationship with the forest. One of respect, caution, and hope. The forest was no longer just a place of fear, but a reminder of resilience and the power of community. As the sun set over Pine Ridge Forest, the whispers continued. Soft now, like a lullaby. The forest had secrets, yes, but it also held the promise of healing and redemption. And somewhere, deep in the shadows, the guardian spirit watched, waiting for the day when the forest would be truly free.